All right, everyone. Welcome back. We are here for episode 3 of Aqua Eagle Chats. We've got a very, very special episode for you all today. I'm here with my coaches at the University of Mary Washington, head coach Justin Anderson and assistant coach Ryan Sullivan. Thank you all for joining me. And how are you doing today?
Good. Thanks for having us, Paul.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys taking time out of your busy schedules this time of year to join me. It means a lot. And we'll go ahead and get started. So, for those of you all that don't know, could you tell the audience how long you've been coaching at UMW and how long you've been coaching in total?
Yeah, this is my 6th year back as head coach at Mary Washington and 14th season overall. I actually started my coaching career after I finished my swimming career at Mary Washington. I was a 4-year swimmer here. After graduation, didn't want to get a real job right away, so I spent 6 months hiking the Appalachian Trail from Maine to Georgia, and then came back that fall and was the assistant coach for Abby Bretthauer her first year here. And then after that, went up to Trinity College in Hartford, Connecticut, was there for 2 years as a grad assistant coach. And then from there, went to Frostburg State University in Western Maryland, was the head coach there for 5 years, and then got the opportunity to come back here to Mary Washington, where I've been for the last 6 years.
Mine is much shorter and simpler. So I've started in the fall of 2020 during COVID volunteering here. So that's when I started. And then the following year was when I got added full-time to the staff. So 3.5 years. And I also coach club on the side, which I've been doing concurrently. So basically living and breathing coaching for the past 3.5 years.
Nice. Yeah, living the dream, I hope. So, Justin, you talked on this a little bit, but when did you know that you wanted to get into collegiate coaching? Was it when you were in undergrad or maybe a little before then?
Yeah, so I actually got my first coaching opportunity when I was pretty young. I was assistant coach for my summer league team the summer that I was 14 and 15. And then they actually hired me to be the head coach when I was 16. And at that point, I had kind of had an idea that I really loved swimming and loved the number side of it and loved the strategic side of building a meet sheet and lineup and scouting out other teams and finding ways we could be creative to win. So I would say as I headed into college, it was something I had in the back of my head. But it wasn't until my junior year of college, my coach at the time, Matt Sullivan, encouraged me to apply for an NCAA forum that was basically like a conference down in Orlando, Florida. And it was a student athlete developmental coaches forum. So basically an opportunity for student athletes interested in coaching to learn more about the profession, what it looked like, how the administrative side of things ran, and to meet other NCAA athletes who were interested in coaching as well. And that was kind of what was the spark for me thinking like, oh, I think I might want to do this for a career. I got to spend that senior year after the convention working as like a student volunteer with my coach in the office. So I did a lot of recruiting stuff with him, getting to see kind of what coaching looked like behind the scenes and more of the off deck component of it. So I would say by junior or senior year, I was pretty sure it was something I wanted to at least try post grad. And then after I had that experience at Trinity, it was something I decided I wanted to pursue and see if I loved it as a head coach, and I did, and that's what's taken me up to here.
Mine's much different. So I quit a lot when I was younger swimming. I swam from about 8 years old to basically when I turned 12, maybe through 12, I forget. But I quit for 3 years, started up in high school again. Just did 3 years there, sophomore, junior, senior year. Quit another 3 years, and then did 2 years in college. And kind of felt like I had some unfinished business with the sport. So when I moved to Virginia during COVID, I couldn't find a full-time job and want to miss the sport of swimming. So got back into it. Yeah.
Nice. Okay. And then Coach Anderson, I know you've worked with USA Para Swimming. If you could highlight that experience and tell about how you got into that.
Yeah, so my involvement with para swimming began in the fall of 2014, so about a decade ago. It was my second season as the head coach of Frostburg State University, and I was sitting in my office like I am right now, and I had an athlete knock on the door named Zach Shattuck, and Zach is a little person or a dwarf, and Zach said, hey, I am interested in competing in the Dwarf National Games this coming summer in California. I wanted to know if you had any tips for me on swimming. I've never swum competitively, but I've grown up swimming in the river at my parents' house or grandparents' house. And at the time, our team was very small at Frostburg. We didn't have a full roster yet. And I said, well, just join the team. We'll teach you how to swim. You can help us by filling lane space and scoring points in events where the other team doesn't have enough people. And hopefully we can get you to a spot where you feel confident heading into the Dwarf National Games that summer. And so Zach spent the first couple months of the season in the deep end with my assistant coaches most of the time, learning the strokes, learning flip turns, kind of the ins and outs of swimming. And then within a year and a half, he had really skyrocketed in the para swimming world as an S6, which was his para classification, and gotten on the national team radar. And that opened some doors for me as his coach. I got invited to work national team camps out in Colorado Springs. And then Zach actually competed at the 2016 para Olympic trials down in Charlotte, North Carolina. And he was first alternate to not make the team, which was a huge bummer, but kind of a big learning experience. And for only having swum for a year and a half to 2 years was really exciting to see him make that progression. And then through Zach and the doors that he opened by making national rosters, I got to go on more and more trips with paraswimming, got to travel to Copenhagen for my first World Series meet, Sheffield, England, got to go to Australia for Pan Pacs, was named head coach for the Pan Am team in Lima, Peru in 2019. And then finally got to go to Tokyo for the Paralympic Games in 2021, which was probably the highlight of my experience. But that basically, every year I was involved, I became more interested in it and more excited about learning more about it, and actively started recruiting para swimmers for the teams that I coach. So when we were at Frostburg, I was able to recruit another swimmer, Connor Giaffreda. He's also a little person, or Dorf. And he came to came to Frostburg. And then I also recruited Joey Peppersack to Frostburg. He did not come to Frostburg, but 2 years later, I ended up getting hired as his coach at Mary Washington and got to work with him. And when I got hired at Mary Washington, I actually brought Zach with me as my assistant coach from Frostburg. So Zach was training with the team and coaching practice at the same time. And then Joey was also training with the team. And probably the highlight of my coaching career with them was getting to see both of them make the Tokyo roster together. They made up 2 of the 10 men that were on that team. And then that exposed me to other athletes who we've continued to recruit. And one of them is on the roster now, Amanda Sheward. And Amanda had a big break this year, making her first international team for Pan Ams down in Santiago, Chile. And so it's definitely something that I've loved and has become a huge part of my career that I never anticipated when I got started coaching.
Yeah, that's certainly super inspirational for me. And I really love that you're doing that meaningful work. And I can see how that influence that you've had with US Paraswimming has carried over to how you approach athletes on the pool deck and out of the pool deck on a daily basis. And Ryan, I know you've had some experience with USA Swimming with the Stingrays in Stafford, Virginia. So if you could talk a little bit about that experience, I'd love that.
So when I started getting into coaching, I kind of I needed a little bit more. So I found the club team, not of coaching, but like additional, money, for lack of a better term. And so I started coaching I saw that there were 2 clubs in the area, realized that Rays was sort of the place to be. So I asked the coach if I could coach there, and they brought me on. So I coached the senior group there. Don't really go to many meets just due to conflict with UMW, but I do get to, work with the athletes there. And it's just great to have, 2 sides of the coin. I get to work with club swimmers as well as collegiate swimmers. And I think that kind of helps with recruiting as well, just because I know what the club swimmers are like a little bit, each generation, and, kids are just changing. So learning how to sort of speak and work with them is pretty helpful.
Yeah, understood. And again, I feel like that gives you an additional perspective that certainly translates over a lot to the college game. So, kind of going off of those lines, we're talking a little bit about experience. Have you taken inspiration from some of your former coaches or perhaps some renowned coaches that you've studied over the years?
You want to jump in first?
Sure, I'll go first. Yes. So obviously with a coaching style, I started really coaching with Coach Anderson here. And so I think he's been massive with that. A little bit of Anthony from club as well, just kind of everybody I work with. And then I really like the UVA coaches a lot. I worked some camps down there, vibed with them a lot, and I really like their sort of coaching style and sort of high energy. I mean, Anderson does that too. So it's kind of all flows together. As far as my old coaches, I was really terrible at swimming and practices. When you don't swim for 3 years and you start back up again, your body's failing like just after warm up. So my coaches worked with me a lot there, and I think that helped a lot. So during practices, I'm like, okay, if you need to modify, let's modify this way so you can get through it and still hit the focus. That's what my old coaches did a lot of when I swam, and I try to carry that when applicable.
Yeah, I would say similarly, I think the coaches you're exposed to have a huge influence on you, whether good or bad. I've been really fortunate that most of it's been good. In my time at Mary Washington, I had one college coach my freshman year, Matt Kinney, who's now at Carnegie Mellon. And then I had another coach, Matt Sullivan, my sophomore through senior year. And he was at Pacific Lutheran up until 2 seasons ago when he retired. And then I was fortunate to come for Abby Bredhauer's start of her career at Mary Washington and see how she ran things. And each of them did things a little bit different. I think one of the most impactful things of seeing all three of them was that I saw 3 very distinct coaching styles and that all of them worked. And it was mostly about getting athlete buy-in, belief in what the program was doing, and having those fast swimming results. Coach Kenny was a little more higher volume, lower rest, a lot of aerobic swimming. Coach Sullivan was a little bit lower volume, and Abby was actually the lowest volume of the coaches that I worked with there. And I would say most like race mindset type of thing in practice. And then was fortunate to have some really great club coaches growing up. Marilyn Mangles from NCAP was probably the biggest impact on me from a stroke developmental standpoint, seeing how to teach swimming and body position in the right way. We don't do a ton of that at the college level because most of you have been developed by the time we get you. But some of those things that stuck with me. And then Greg York from York Swim Club was my coach towards the end of my high school career. Definitely had a big impact on me too. Saw that lower volume club swimming could also produce really fast swimming. And I think I've landed in the middle of all those coaches. In terms of college coaches, I think we're all watching what everybody's doing. And I'm on SwimSim every day. I'm following people on Instagram, whether it's the Race Club or Peter Andrews or what UVA is posting.
We're both in mentor groups for the College Swim Coaches Association, so we're talking with other coaches there, seeing what they're doing.
Yeah, and that's the 6th year that I've done it with different groupings of coaches. So basically once a month we get on a call just like this, share ideas, share practices, talk about, the hard side of coaching administratively, dealing with personal relationship dynamics, things like that. But I think from coaching style standpoints, all the best coaches are stealing and sharing and taking from each other. And that's how you continue to grow and improve. And I think that's something we definitely are excited about. Like we'll send each other stuff on Instagram. Like, did you see this or what they're doing? Or what do you think about doing this in practice this week? And I think that's what all the best people are doing is they're finding who's doing it well and how do we incorporate that with what we have.
Seeing what works, repeating it later next year, I think it's working pretty well.
Yeah, I love that perspective. And both of you and my club coach, Jonathan Kaplan, I see the inspiration that you take from other people and just the different styles that you both have in coaching. And I love how there's a lot of variability in practice. And I think it's great to recognize that it's not a one-person journey. There's a wealth of knowledge out there and resources. And I love that you guys are taking advantage of that, since as an athlete, it really shows that you care for us and you're dedicating plenty of time to our improvement. But you did talk a little bit about that coaches association. Is that ASCA?
Yeah, for ASCA's like the American Swim Coaches Association, or America's, I can't remember. We're in the CSCAA, which is the College Swim Coaches Association of America. So they're the like membership organization for college coaches across all 3 divisions, NAIA, National Junior College Association. So they do a convention every year and then put on some different professional development opportunities throughout the year, but that's college specific. So it's not like international or, club coaching across America, which the other 2 organizations would cover.
Got it. And you talked about taking influence from a variety of coaches regarding yardage, race pace, things of that nature in terms of training. So as you go about a college season, it's a lot more condensed than maybe back in club swimming where you have a full 11 or 12 months to expand upon the season. So how do you prefer to set up the season in terms of your aerobic training versus perhaps your lactic acid resistant stuff or your race pace? Could you break that down for me a little bit?
Yeah, so I would say it varies a little bit year to year, and part of it's dependent on you all and how you come into the season. If it looks like people haven't touched the water in a while, we're going to start off with probably a little more heavy aerobic stuff, a little more skill focused stuff, trying to get a feel for the water back. But I think of our season more so in halves than anything else. Division 3 is a little bit unique in that it used to be called the 19-week rule. It's now the 114-day rule, but we essentially get 19 weeks, and we've got to think about how we're going to divide that. And for us, it is an 8-week focus at the start of the season that ends with our mid-season invitational, which is a 3-day prelim final meet. And then the last 10 to 11 weeks are from that leading into our conference championship. So I would say the first half of the season definitely has a focus a little bit higher on aerobic base, getting that back up for the first 3 weeks to 5 weeks, depending on what type of condition we're in. And then starting to bring in more of that race focus kind of dialed in setting. But I think we do a lot of race pace emphasis stuff in practice, whether it's pace specific work, fast 25s, working on hitting cycle counts, sub kicks while maintaining speed. But I definitely think those things ramp up as we get into that second half of the season, where we also start to focus a little bit more on the events that we're specializing in for college, where, there may be 3 to 4 events that are really our focus. That starts to become the focus of the second semester, is really tuning in the details on those 3 to 4 events to making sure we're going to be ready to execute when we get to championships.
And one thing I want to add, I think in the beginning, it's a little bit more easy volume type of stuff where, we may still hit a good amount of volume that we would later on, but the intervals are going to be a little bit longer. You're going to get more rest. And then later on, we'll hit a little bit, then maybe hit that more volume, but it's higher intensity with shorter rest type of stuff,
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense logically, especially as you progress over the course of 4 to 5 months. And I feel like this year was the first year that I really tuned in to what we were doing, where I noticed that general aerobic. And then we started to get a little more specific, higher intensity, same volume, but less rest. So I like to nerd out over that stuff. And it was kind of cool to see that everything had a purpose. And I really enjoyed that. And it helped me show up to practice every day and continue to work hard. And I know that this year, certain practices would be written by either Justin or Ryan or our other assistant coach, Grace. How do you decide who's going to write a practice, either for a group or for the whole team that day?
Yeah, sometimes it depends where we're at in the season. A lot of times I have an idea of what I want to do, and then may, a day before be like, wow, we looked pretty rough here, or I noticed at the meet we're doing no underwater kicks. Ryan, can you come up with an underwater kick set that we can incorporate before we get into the main set, or maybe as a finish set? Same conversation with Grace. Can you come up with something maybe for our sprint-oriented people? But that stuff I would say is very rarely planned super far out. It's more of the kind of adjustments. There's a general season plan I have in mind where I have practices for every day that we've done in previous years, or I know what type of volume I want each day, and we build things off of that. And then fine tuning that as I see, like, you guys get feedback like, hey, we want more stroke work, or I feel like I'm not getting enough 200 focus work. I might hear after our first meet where we do 200 strokes and you guys are like, that was hard. And then we build that stuff into the next week or 2 weeks practice. And I say, hey, can you come up with a 200 set where maybe we're not doing over 150 of stroke, and I want it to be this much volume, and I'd like them to ideally get 10 to 20 seconds rest. And then I let them build it from there. I would say Ryan and Grace's first year, I wasn't asking as much of that from them because that was more about just letting them see what a season's going to be like. But as they've been with the program and you guys have developed trust in them and I've developed trust in them, they've definitely gotten more of that load of starting to plan things. And when we split into groups saying, hey, can you come up with a little bit more of this practice than I'm going to come up with, and I'm going to take the 500 free group today. I've already got that written out. This is what I'm thinking. Come up with something for our IM group that is in this range of yardage. It's going to take about this much time, and letting them run with it from there. It's not like I don't know what the set's going to be. They'll make it and then say, hey, what do you think? And then we bounce each other's ideas off of one another and maybe make some adjustments from there, where I say, like, that looks awesome. Let's go with it. So I think it's nice that we all have some pretty open lines of communication between me, Ryan, and Grace, and that I think they've been with the team long enough that they know how my brain works and the type of stuff that we normally do, and are able to develop things based on that.
Gotta be flexible as a coach.
Absolutely. And I love that, Ryan, you brought that up a couple of times, especially throughout the week. If you're seeing some stuff in a committee or online on social media about training, perhaps you could incorporate that. So it's really cool, especially for me as an athlete, to get a little more of that perspective on the inner workings of the coaches throughout the season. And I have one more follow-up, and this is more geared towards taper. I've noticed that there's a lot of similarities in our taper routine each year, specifically for the conference championship, where we're doing a lot of broken swims, race rehearsal swims, based on your day 1, day 2, and day 3 events of individual races. So, Coach Anderson, I assume that this is a philosophy you've had for a while, and it's certainly proven results. But if you could dive a little bit more into that and tell me when you learned of that philosophy and a little more about it in general.
Yes, I would say a lot of what we do in taper is taken from the coaches that I swam for and coach with, specifically Coach Sullivan and Coach Bretthauer, Abby and Matt, who were here, and seeing how they ran things, and seeing something go well gives you confidence that, okay, I think if I can lay things out in a similar manner, that will be helpful. I think brokens are always helpful for athletes because they want to let you feel like you're really fast. Typically, if the broken is one where you're getting a little more rest, and letting you see like, okay, when I'm fast, I'm doing things this way, whether it's this is where I breathe, this is what my cycle counts are, this is how many underwater kicks I'm taking, or how far I'm carrying them. So part of it's a confidence thing is repeating what we're doing so that you guys can see that you are capable of doing it and doing it fast. Part of it's creating a routine, because I don't want you guys to get to a championship meet and be like, I'll just do some random warm up that I've never done before, or I'm used to doing this much kick, I'm going to do something totally different. So I'm obviously not running you guys through warm up at our championship meets with close to 60 of you. There's not an ability to do that, but giving you guys a routine that, like, oh, this is what I usually do. I'm going to jump in and be able to at least get through this 12 to 1500 yards on my own. We've been given the tools enough times throughout the season of what that looks like. And in that taper segment, it's usually about 3 weeks that I can do some of that work when I get in and start feeling confident with it. But a lot of it is just, I saw it work with other coaches. I believed in it. I was able to implement it when I was experimenting with things a little bit more at Frostburg in my first coaching job. Saw it work well there, and something that I've kind of continued over the years, especially for our college swimmers that are only in a 4-year quad, so that they know what the routine looks like after year one. The next 3 years, it should be, okay, this is what it's going to feel like on taper. This is what it looks like when I'm a week out, 2 weeks out, 3 days out, whatever it is. So they start to have that confidence in the process and trust things a little bit more.
I think a lot of coaches would, probably almost every coach would say taper is just a mystery to everybody. So if you find something that works well and you get, again, buy-in from the athletes, then you're set.
Yeah, I think I've seen Eddie Reese. He said that before. Taper is a lost art or something along those lines, where you're kind of hoping for the best. I personally really like the predictability of it, though, at least here at UMW, since I feel like that gives me confidence in knowing that regardless of how I'm swimming throughout the regular season, when it comes time for taper, I know that this works for me and my body will be ready by the time I get to the meet. And I did kind of lie a little bit. Ryan, I do have a follow-up question for you, but I was reflecting as coach was talking, and I thought a little bit about this year, Ryan. I feel like you were very vocal on deck, and you also showed us a lot with technical things when we were doing drill work, or if you were pointing something out while we were swimming, you'd often, like, especially for breaststroke, show us something with your arm positions. So is there something with mind muscle connection for you that really resonates with yourself as a coach?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. So I think mind muscle is a big term in the lifting world, where so I think the same thing applies to swimming. So if you're thinking about something and trying to hone in on that, you can really feel it a little bit better. So I think I just naturally, I've been known in the past to start talking with my hands a lot, and I think as I've grown with coaching and gotten more comfortable, I've just been bringing more of that over, I would say. So I do like to preach that, the mind muscle connection in a way, and try to apply that whenever possible.
Yeah, certainly. I really appreciated that. So I'm looking forward to more of that next year, hopefully. And as we move down the line towards the end, I wanted to flip over to the recruiting side of things, since especially at a Division III school, that's a big part of it where you're going after athletes. It's a lot harder, I feel like, to get the athletes to want to come to you. And sometimes that happens, but I know with D3, a lot of times athletes are balancing, do they want to compete in college versus do they want to go to a bigger school and just be a regular student? So I know both of you have had a lot of experience in that process. If you could walk me through that, that'd be cool.
I would say part of it depends on the type of school you're at. We're at a state school, so that's going to dictate a little bit of how we recruit here, meaning Virginia is going to be our primary focus since tuition is going to be the most affordable for those students. Regionally, we're fortunate that Virginia is a very big swimming state. It's got a lot of fast clubs, some of the best in the country. And I would say for D3, you have to cast a little bit of a wider net. I'm not at Texas where I can pick my 10 recruits that I'm going to focus on because they all want to come to Texas. So that pool may start out with emails to every kid in Virginia with a swim cloud rating of, I don't know, under probably 60 for us, starting their junior year. And then going out from Virginia to Maryland, to DC, to Pennsylvania, New Jersey, we tend to get a lot of swimmers. We're starting to get more in North Carolina area, and sending those just general introduction emails. And it's kind of like fishing. You put the bait out there, you're seeing who bites with a reply. So the kids that reply, you engage in a dialogue, say, hey, we'd love to have you fill out our questionnaire and set up a phone call. Who replies to the phone call? That's going to dictate that next step. So it starts to funnel itself down where your pool is getting smaller and smaller, and you have the kids that you're trying to get to campus that junior year for hopefully a day visit where they can see campus in person, see how beautiful it is, see a bunch of swimmers on campus as we're walking down. And then as they get to senior year, getting them to campus for that official visit where they're going to get the opportunity to shadow a class that they're interested in, get meals on campus with the team, stay in a residence hall, see what one of our practices looks like. Hopefully it's timed with a meet. They can see what a meet looks like, get to see our strength and conditioning facilities, athletic training facilities, and hopefully sell them on, this is what it'll look like to be here. These are the people you're going to spend 4 years with. And hopefully you as athletes are going to help sell the team as well when they're here. And then, committing that class is the last step. So for us, we push early action applications so that they can get their response from admissions as soon as possible. And then this has been a unique year where financial aid from the federal government is a mess. So it has delayed a lot of our athletes finding out what their packages are going to look like. And I think we'll have a lot of later commitments than we might normally, just because that information literally is starting to come in this week. So there's athletes that aren't finding out total costs until now, which is about 3 weeks from when most athletes have that deadline of May 1st to put in a deposit. But we ideally try to close out our recruiting normally this time of year, maybe a couple weeks ago, basically once all of those high school championship meets have wrapped up. So your senior champs meets for Virginia and Potomac Valley, whether it's YNATs, which is happening right now down in Greensboro, whether it's NCSAs or ISCAs, which took place over the last 2 weeks, or sectionals down in Christiansburg. A lot of the swimmers will want to see, what am I going to do at this last championship meet before they finalize that college decision. And then it's similar around December timeframe. There's typically a lot of championship meets where swimmers want to see, where am I at this mid-year point, and then make a decision after. So for us, the two biggest time periods of those commitments coming in are typically post the December championship meets, probably 3 post high school championship meets in February, and then post all of those end of short course yard season meets towards the middle to end of March.
Okay. Yeah. Ryan, I know you do a lot of the on-campus tours where you're showing the athletes around. How do you try to create that welcoming experience for them that they know that they'd want to come to UMW?
Honestly, I just try to have as much fun as possible. So I try to, because, it is kind of an awkward thing sometimes. You're just coming there, it's kind of the first time they're meeting coaches face to face. So sometimes it's a little nerve-wracking for the student athlete. And so I try to have as much fun as I can. And I just take them around campus of what I like about campus and sort of emphasize that. So my tours are they're slightly different from Coaches Anderson's. I like to sort of go over into Segelbeck, for instance. Everybody knows I like to go play foosball 11-2 against recruits. I should start tracking and see how many recruits we actually get that I've beaten foosball.
Oh, man.
Maybe that's what's deterring.
Yeah, maybe, hopefully, I don't know. But yeah, so I try to do that and have a lot of fun. And yeah, that's just kind of my emphasis, and make it a memorable experience so that, when they leave campus, they'll say, you know what, I had a lot of fun there. I can really see myself being there for the next 4 years and being successful.
Nice. Yeah, that's definitely something that I wish I was able to get, but I was part of that COVID recruiting year in 2021. But I always see you guys going around campus and I'm like, man, that looks like it's so much fun.
Some days it's just bleak. It's a little rough, but it's great. I want to touch on that. I think a lot of coaches would also say that they're more recruiters than coaches in the end, just how much work that recruiting takes. Coaching is probably a smaller percentage of what a collegiate coach really does compared to recruiting, likely up there in the top for amount of work spent.
I agree with that.
Yeah, Coach Anderson, I remember we talked, this was like 2 years ago in your intro to coaching class that I took. You made sure to emphasize that coaching is a lot of administrative work. And the more efficient you are with the administrative work, the more you actually get to spend on coaching the sport itself. So that's something that resonated with me. And I try to keep it in the back of my mind as I move towards being a head coach for a summer team this summer. But yeah, guys, I'd love to keep chatting and really love nerding out with you all. But I know we're kind of running low on time here. So I've got a few rapid fire questions before we go. So short answers. If you don't have an answer, just you can say move on.
These are the gotcha questions.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. All righty. So starting out, what are the best shoes to wear on deck?
On Cloud water resistant. I need to get a size up though, but the water resistance great. He needs to get a pair of water resistant shoes.
I have yet to find the best pair. My shoes are soaked at the end of every practice.
But I'd say On Cloud, the water resistant ones are nice, but I need to size up at least. They're like, I get my normal size and they're just so tight that they're not that comfortable. But proper fitting On Cloud water resistant.
Solid. I didn't know they made water-resistant shoes.
Yeah.
How many stopwatches do you carry at a time?
I could have 15 in my bag or 0.
I have two. I have a good one and a backup bad one, and I give everybody that needs one the backup bad one. So have my good one.
Got it. And Coach Anderson, does it depend on like practice or the meet?
Sometimes I'll have them all because we just went to an invite, and then I'll forget to take them all out of the backpack that I have in my office, and I'll get down to the pool deck and I'm like, I have none here.
I think we had 18 at conferences.
Yeah,
In the back or something.
mostly for when we're backup timing for the mile and things like that.
Yeah.
Got it. All right. What's your favorite stroke to coach if you had to pick one?
Breaststroke.
I would probably
It's the
say
most fun.
I'd probably say breaststroke.
Yeah,
too.
a lot of coaches say breaststroke. It's just everybody swims it differently. It's just the most fun.
Yeah, I do love breaststroke. I secretly wish I was better at it, but I feel like it's one of the best strokes to watch for sure. What about your least favorite stroke to coach?
I'm gonna plead the fifth because I don't want any recruits not coming here because I don't like their stroke.
That's fair. That's fair.
I will say, man, it's hard. I'm between backstroke and butterfly. Just do backstroke just because I was terrible at it, so it's like I have a grudge against the stroke. I still like kind of coaching just because I like when I'm like working on underwaters and really hip driven rotation with that. Butterfly, just because sometimes when people get really tired, I'm like, oh, there's not much saving this right now. They're just kind of they just need to get through it.
Yeah, I was gonna say for me it would probably be butterfly since it can get really ugly at the end of some races.
I mean, I love butterfly. It's fun. It's fun to watch and coach, but just after a long practice of a fly heavy, it's like we just got to get through it. There's not much more we can adjust right now.
I feel you. And then last question, if you weren't a swim coach, what job do you think you would have?
Well, I was an environmental consultant before being a swim coach. I don't know if I want to do that again. Probably some kind of hydrogeologist for like an engineering firm. That would be fun.
I think I'd be a chicken farmer.
Oh, well, is there like a specific place or?
No, I mean I had 35 chickens at one point, and I enjoyed raising backyard chickens. So I could see being like a specialty breed chicken breeder who also farms chickens.
So you wouldn't be selling eggs, you would just be breeding chickens.
Maybe the full combination, like a whole business empire built around chickens.
Is this like a dream job or like an actual job that we could probably do?
It's up to you. Do you have a dream job?
Man, I don't know. I mean, I think something in like Europe and like working at some like park up in Norway or something would be really cool. Like I hiked a glacier in Norway one time, and being like guiding that would probably be really cool. That'd be probably a dream job.
Yeah,
but I can't do that.
Yeah, that's pretty extravagant. Well, thank you both for joining. Hope you guys enjoyed that.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for having us, Paul.